My ex will be in my life no matter what. We have 4 kids together.
What if the person you loved most in the world slowly became the source of your greatest pain? What if staying meant losing yourself, but leaving meant a battle that would literally damage your brain? Kim Kardashian just revealed something that has the entire world talking, and trust me, this goes way deeper than anyone expected.
Last night, I was like, why the is this happening?
Picture this. You're lying in an MRI machine, thinking it's just another routine checkup. Another day in your carefully curated life. The machine hums around you and you're probably thinking about your next business meeting, your kids' schedules, maybe what you're wearing to your next public appearance. Then the doctor walks in with that look. You know the one? The look that says everything is about to change. That's exactly what happened to Kim Kardashian. And what the doctors found inside her brain has exposed a truth she's been hiding for years. On the Season 7 premiere of The Kardashians, cameras captured the moment that would send shockwaves through Hollywood. Kim, 45 years old and at the peak of her empire, discovered she has a brain aneurysm, not a headache, not stress, an actual swelling in a blood vessel inside her brain that could potentially end her life if it ruptures. The medical term sounds clinical, almost distant, but the reality is terrifying. 1 in 30 people have these ticking time bombs in their heads, and most don't even know it. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Kim knows exactly what caused hers, and she's not afraid to say his name anymore. The doctors explained it to her in that cold, sterile medical language they use when they're trying not to scare you. Aneurysms can be caused by stress. Chronic, unrelenting, soul-crushing stress. The kind that keeps you up at night. The kind that makes your heart race when you see a notification on your phone. The kind that comes from spending 8 years married to one of the most unpredictable, controversial, and exhausting men in the entertainment industry. Kim looked directly at the camera and said what everyone was thinking. Kanye West did this to her. Let's be crystal clear about what we're talking about here. This isn't some petty celebrity drama about who gets the beach house or who keeps the private jet. This is about a woman whose body is literally showing physical evidence of the trauma she endured. Kim's brain developed a dangerous medical condition, and she's pointing the finger directly at her ex-husband, the man she once called her soulmate, the man she defended publicly while he spiraled, the man who gave her 4 beautiful children and apparently a brain aneurysm. But the aneurysm is just the beginning of this story. What Kim revealed in that premiere episode goes so much deeper, so much darker than anyone anticipated. She used a term that made everyone watching sit up and pay attention. Stockholm Syndrome. Yes, you heard that right. Kim Kardashian, one of the most powerful women in entertainment, admitted she believes Kanye West gave her Stockholm Syndrome. For those who don't know, Stockholm Syndrome is a psychological response where hostages or abuse victims develop positive feelings toward their captors or abusers as a survival mechanism. It's your brain trying to protect you from a reality too painful to accept. Kim even tried to make light of it, saying it's a divorce, not a kidnapping. But the words hung in the air like a confession. This wasn't a joke. This was a woman finally admitting that she stayed in a situation that was destroying her because she couldn't see the way out. She couldn't recognize what was happening to her until she was already drowning in it. And now, 3 years after filing for divorce in 2022, her body is still paying the price. The Kim and Kanye love story was supposed to be a fairy tale. They were Kimye, the power couple that broke the internet before breaking the internet was even a thing. He was the brilliant, troubled artist. She was the reality star turned business mogul. Together they seemed unstoppable. They got married in a lavish ceremony in 2014, surrounded by their famous friends and family. The wedding was in Florence, Italy, at a literal Renaissance fortress. It was the kind of wedding that costs millions and gets covered by every magazine in the world. Everyone wanted what they had. Everyone thought they were relationship goals. But behind the designer clothes and the perfectly curated Instagram posts, something was rotting. Kanye West wasn't just the misunderstood genius the public saw. He was becoming someone Kim didn't recognize, someone she couldn't protect her children from, someone she couldn't even protect herself from. And the stress of trying to hold together a family while her husband fell apart piece by piece was literally killing her from the inside out. The timeline of their collapse reads like a horror movie in slow motion. It started small, or at least that's what Kim probably told herself. Kanye would say something controversial in an interview. He'd go on a Twitter rant at 3 in the morning. He'd make comments that made her cringe, but that she'd defend because she was his wife. She was supposed to stand by him. That's what you do when you love someone, right? You defend them even when they're indefensible. But then it got worse. So much worse. In 2022, the year Kim filed for divorce, Kanye went on an anti-Semitic rampage that got him banned from Twitter and Instagram. He posted hateful rhetoric about Jewish people. He praised Hitler. He dined with white supremacists and neo-Nazis. This wasn't just controversial anymore. This was dangerous. This was hate speech. And Kim had to watch the father of her children become someone the entire world despised. Imagine being Kim in that moment. You're trying to protect 4 young children. North was 9 years old, Saint was 6, Chicago was 4, and Psalm was just 3. They're at ages where they're starting to understand what's happening in the world around them. They can read. They can hear what people are saying. And their father is all over the news for saying things so vile that major corporations are dropping him left and right. Adidas ended their billion-dollar partnership with him. Balenciaga cut ties. Gap terminated their deal. His net worth dropped from billions to millions practically overnight. Kim recently revealed something that broke hearts everywhere. One of her children found out about Kanye's online rants. One of her babies discovered what their father was saying to the world, and she had to figure out how to explain the unexplainable. How do you tell your child that their dad is saying things that hurt people? How do you protect them from the reality that their father is choosing hate over helping himself? How do you look into your child's confused eyes and make any of this make sense? The stress of that alone would break most people. But Kim wasn't just dealing with Kanye's public meltdowns. She was dealing with the private ones too. In a recent interview, she opened up about the final straws that made her finally file for divorce. She talked about not feeling emotionally safe anymore. Not feeling financially safe, which is wild considering she's a billionaire in her own right. But Kanye's erratic behavior was putting everything at risk. Their family, their finances, their safety, their children's future. And here's the part that makes this whole story even more tragic. Kim says she begged him to get help. She watched him struggle with his mental health, and she tried everything to get him the support he needed. Kanye has been open about his bipolar disorder diagnosis, but being open about it and actually getting treatment are two very different things. Kim has said that his refusal to consistently seek help was one of the main reasons she couldn't stay. You can't save someone who won't save themselves, and you can't sacrifice your own life trying. But even after the divorce was filed, even after it was finalized, the nightmare didn't end. It couldn't end because they share 4 children. Kanye West will be in Kim Kardashian's life forever, whether she wants him there or not. Every custody exchange, every school event, every birthday party, every holiday, she has to coordinate with a man who caused her so much stress that her brain literally developed a medical condition. She has to co-parent with someone who gave her Stockholm syndrome. She has to pretend everything is fine for the sake of her children, while her psoriasis flares up from the stress. Oh yes, let's talk about the psoriasis. Kim has been dealing with this autoimmune skin condition for years, and she's been refreshingly honest about it. She's shown her flare-ups on camera. She's talked about the treatments she's tried. But here's what she revealed in the Season 7 premiere that absolutely nobody saw coming. Her psoriasis had gone away after the divorce. Gone. Like her body physically felt the relief of being away from that toxic situation and started healing itself. But recently it's come back. The painful, itchy, uncomfortable patches of inflamed skin have returned. And Kim knows why. She told a producer, "I haven't had psoriasis since getting a divorce and it just started coming back." The stress of continuing to deal with Kanye, even from a distance, is making her sick again. Her body is screaming at her that this isn't sustainable. First the psoriasis returns, then they find an aneurysm. What's next? How much more can one person's body take before it completely breaks down? Medical experts have been weighing in on Kim's aneurysm revelation, and the responses are fascinating. Some doctors are pushing back on the idea that stress directly causes brain aneurysms. They point out that the primary risk factors are genetic predisposition, high blood pressure, smoking, and being a woman over 50. They say that while stress can raise blood pressure, it's unlikely to be the sole cause of an aneurysm forming. But here's what they're not considering. Chronic stress doesn't just raise your blood pressure temporarily. It damages your cardiovascular system over time. It weakens blood vessel walls. It creates the perfect conditions for something to go catastrophically wrong. Professor Paresh Malhotra from Imperial College, London explained that most small aneurysms don't cause symptoms and are found accidentally during scans for other issues. They just sit there, silent and deadly, waiting. The majority never burst, never cause problems, just exist as a reminder that something in your body isn't quite right. But in rare cases they rupture, causing a subarachnoid hemorrhage, which is a fancy medical term for bleeding in the space around your brain. It's a type of stroke, and it's often fatal. The main symptom is a sudden, severe headache described as a thunderclap. 1 minute you're fine, the next you're fighting for your life. Kim's aneurysm is small, which is good news. Her doctors will likely monitor it regularly to make sure it's not growing or changing shape. But the fact that it's there at all is a wake-up call. Her body is sending her a message that she can't ignore. The stress is too much. The trauma is too deep. Something has to change, or the consequences could be devastating. And Kim isn't the only celebrity who's been through this nightmare. The list of famous people who've battled brain aneurysms is longer and more heartbreaking than most people realize. Emilia Clarke, the actress who played Daenerys Targaryen on Game of Thrones, survived not one but 2 life-threatening brain aneurysms while filming the show. She was only 24 years old when the first one struck during a workout. She's spoken about the terror of losing the ability to remember her own name, of struggling to speak, of wondering if her career was over before it really began. She had emergency surgery, recovered, then went back to work, only to have another aneurysm rupture 2 years later, 2 brain surgeries before the age of 27, and she still managed to finish the series. Sharon Stone had a massive brain hemorrhage in 2001 that nearly ended her life. She's talked about the long, painful recovery process, how she had to relearn basic tasks, how her speech was affected for years. She developed aphasia, a condition that makes it difficult to communicate. She had a stutter that took years of therapy to manage. The woman who was once one of Hollywood's biggest sex symbols had to rebuild herself from scratch. These stories matter because they show what survival looks like. They show that life can continue after a brain aneurysm, but it's never the same. There's before and there's after, and the person who exists in the after is fundamentally changed by what they've been through. Kim is now part of this club that nobody wants to join. She's a survivor of something most people never even think about until it happens to them or someone they love. But let's get back to the real villain of this story, Kanye West. Because while Kim is dealing with aneurysms and psoriasis flare-ups and Stockholm Syndrome, and trying to raise 4 kids in the aftermath of a toxic marriage, what is Kanye doing? He's still making headlines for all the wrong reasons. He continues to post bizarre rants on social media. He briefly claimed to be done with anti-Semitism in 2025 after yet another hate crime made headlines. But the apology felt hollow. Too little, too late, and definitely not enough to undo the damage he's caused. There's speculation, and this is where we need to be clear that this is rumor territory, that Kanye has continued to try to control aspects of Kim's life even after the divorce. Sources close to the family have suggested he's made co-parenting unnecessarily difficult. There are whispers about disagreements over the children's schooling, their public appearances, their social media presence. Remember when Kanye went on a public rant about North being on TikTok without his permission? That was just a glimpse of the control battles happening behind the scenes. And now, with North turning 12 and starting to express herself in more dramatic ways, like posting videos with fake face tattoos and piercings, the tension is only increasing. Kim has defended her daughter's right to self-expression, but you know Kanye has opinions. You know there are text messages and phone calls that we'll never see where these battles play out. And every single one of those interactions adds to Kim's stress level. Every argument over pickup times, every disagreement about parenting choices, every moment of unpredictability. It all compounds. The thing about Stockholm Syndrome that makes it so insidious is that even after you're free, even after you've physically left the situation, the psychological effects linger. Kim's admission that she had these feelings during her marriage suggests she spent years making excuses for behavior that was inexcusable. She normalized things that should never be normal. She convinced herself that the good moments made up for the bad ones, even when the bad ones started outnumbering the good by a massive margin. Friends close to Kim have said she's a completely different person now than she was during the marriage. She's more confident, more decisive, more protective of her peace. But that transformation came at a cost. It came at the cost of her health. It came at the cost of years she can never get back. It came at the cost of her children's innocence as they watched their parents' relationship deteriorate in the public eye. There's also the financial element that Kim mentioned, which is fascinating considering her wealth. When she talked about not feeling financially safe, what did she mean? Kanye's financial decisions became increasingly erratic as his mental health struggles intensified. He made impulsive business moves. He said things that cost them partnerships and deals. His behavior was putting their entire financial ecosystem at risk. For someone like Kim, who has worked incredibly hard to build her billion-dollar empire, watching someone else's choices threaten that must have been maddening. And let's talk about the empire Kim built, because it's relevant to understanding why this situation is so painful. Kim didn't just get famous and coast on reality TV checks. She turned her platform into Skims, a shapewear and loungewear company now valued at over $4 billion. She's passed the bar exam in several states, working to become a lawyer focused on criminal justice reform. She's used her influence to help free wrongfully convicted people from prison. She's built businesses, raised 4 children, and navigated being one of the most famous people on the planet. She did all of that while dealing with a husband who was actively making her life harder at every turn. The stress of maintaining that level of success while your personal life is falling apart would crush most people. But Kim kept going because she had to. She had children depending on her, employees depending on her, fans depending on her. So she smiled for the cameras and posted perfect photos and acted like everything was fine while inside. Her brain was literally developing a bulge in a blood vessel from the pressure. Medical professionals will tell you that the mind-body connection is real and powerful. Chronic stress affects every system in your body. It suppresses your immune system, making you more susceptible to illness. It increases inflammation, which is linked to dozens of diseases. It raises your blood pressure, which damages your heart and blood vessels. It disrupts your sleep, which affects your ability to heal and recover. It can trigger or worsen autoimmune conditions like psoriasis. And yes, over time it can contribute to cardiovascular problems that might include aneurysms. So when Kim says her aneurysm was caused by stress from Kanye, even if doctors debate whether stress is a direct cause, they can't deny that chronic stress creates the conditions where these things can happen. Her body was under siege for 8 years, and then for 3 more years of contentious co-parenting afterward. That's 11 years of elevated cortisol, of fight-or-flight responses, of never feeling truly safe or at peace. 11 years of her body trying to cope with an impossible situation. Now here's where we need to address the update that came out after the initial reports. A family source told media outlets that Kim does not actually blame Kanye for the aneurysm, and that the trailer editing made it seem that way. They said the creative editing was misleading. But here's the thing about reality TV. Even if the editors connected dots that weren't explicitly connected in real time, Kim still said everything she said. She still revealed the aneurysm. She still talked about stress. She still mentioned Stockholm Syndrome. She still discussed how her psoriasis returned. The editors didn't put those words in her mouth. They just arranged the footage in a way that made the connection explicit. So the question becomes, if Kim doesn't blame Kanye, what was she trying to communicate? Why bring up these deeply personal health issues in the same episode where she talks extensively about the trauma of her marriage. The juxtaposition speaks for itself, regardless of what family sources claim after the fact. It feels like damage control, like someone worried about the narrative spinning out of control or potential legal implications. Because let's be honest about what's really happening here. Kim Kardashian just revealed to the world that her marriage was so damaging that she believes it gave her Stockholm syndrome and contributed to a brain aneurysm. That's not just gossip. That's an accusation. That's saying, this person's actions had serious consequences for my mental and physical health. Whether she meant to explicitly blame Kanye or the editing did it for her, the message is clear. That relationship nearly destroyed her. And the truly terrifying part is that it's not over. Kim can't just walk away and never think about Kanye again. She's tied to him for life through their children. She has to see him. She has to communicate with him. She has to navigate his unpredictability while trying to maintain stability for North, Saint, Chicago, and Psalm. She has to smile and be civil and pretend like everything is fine while her brain has a literal time bomb in it and her skin is breaking out in painful rashes from the stress. Think about what that means for her daily life. Every morning she wakes up knowing she has a small aneurysm in her brain. Most days it probably doesn't cross her mind. She's too busy running businesses and raising kids and being Kim Kardashian. But then she has to coordinate something with Kanye, and the stress spikes, and suddenly she's probably wondering if her blood pressure is too high. If this argument is the one that causes the aneurysm to rupture, if this fight over pickup times or school choices or whatever trivial thing has become a battle is going to be the thing that ends her life, that's not an exaggeration. That's the reality of living with an unruptured brain aneurysm. Most of the time it's nothing. It's a medical curiosity that gets monitored but doesn't affect your life. But in the back of your mind, always, is the knowledge that it could rupture, that you could have the worst headache of your life and be fighting for your survival in minutes. That's what Kanye's actions have given Kim. A permanent reminder that stress can have physical, potentially fatal consequences. The conversation around this revelation has been intense on social media. Some people are sympathetic, sharing their own stories of toxic relationships and stress-related health problems. Others are skeptical, accusing Kim of being dramatic or using her platform to smear Kanye unfairly. But here's the thing that both sides need to understand. Kim doesn't need to exaggerate for sympathy. She's one of the most famous women in the world, with a massive support system and unlimited resources. If she's speaking out about this, it's because it matters. It's because she wants people to understand what she went through. It's because maybe, just maybe, she wants other people in similar situations to recognize the warning signs before their bodies start breaking down too. There's also the element of public accountability. Kanye West has done damage to a lot of people with his words and actions over the past several years. He's hurt the Jewish community with his anti-Semitic rhetoric. He's hurt his business partners who trusted him and lost millions when he imploded those relationships. He's hurt his fans who looked up to him and had to reconcile the artist they loved with the hateful person he became. And he's hurt his family, particularly Kim, in ways that are still being discovered. By speaking out, Kim is saying, "This is what happened behind closed doors. This is the cost of staying silent for too long. It's powerful, it's brave, and it's absolutely necessary. Because how many other people are in relationships right now where they're being slowly destroyed, but don't recognize it? How many people are making excuses for their partner's behavior, convincing themselves it's not that bad, staying because they don't know how to leave? How many people won't realize the damage until their doctor finds something terrifying on a scan? Kim's story is a warning. It's a cautionary tale about the real, physical cost of toxic relationships. It's proof that you can have all the money in the world, all the resources, all the support, and still end up with a brain aneurysm because you stayed too long in a situation that was destroying you. If it can happen to Kim Kardashian, with her team of lawyers and therapists and doctors and publicists, it can happen to anyone. The silver lining, if there is one, is that Kim survived. She got out. She's building a life on the other side of that marriage. She's protecting her children the best way she knows how. She's speaking her truth even when it's uncomfortable. And she's monitoring that aneurysm, working with her doctors, managing her stress, and hopefully finding moments of peace in between the chaos. But the story isn't over. Kim will go back for another MRI scan in a few months or a year. The doctors will check if the aneurysm has grown or changed. She'll continue co-parenting with Kanye, which means the stress isn't going away. She'll keep building her businesses and raising her kids and being the Kim the world expects her to be. And somewhere in her brain, that small aneurysm will sit, a permanent reminder of what those 8 years cost her. What if the person you loved most in the world became the source of your greatest pain? Kim Kardashian doesn't have to imagine it. She lived it. And now she's living with the aftermath. One doctor's appointment at a time, one co-parenting exchange at a time, one day at a time. The world is watching, like we always do with the Kardashians, but this time it feels different. This time it feels like we're watching someone fight for their life in slow motion, and all we can do is hope the next scan comes back clear.